Hi, everyone, and welcome to the last session of the day. Welcome, and I'm very glad to see you all here. And today I'm going to talk about applied psychology. As developer, we usually get design, Figma design, if we have a dedicated UX UI person. But what happens if we are working on a startup or we don't have the resources for a dedicated UX UI person? Then we can either implement things based on previous things that we worked on and implemented, but it will be even better if we kind of understand and know the cognitive principles that guide UX expert in their work. So we can improve the product, we can offer suggestions, we can take a more proactive role in our development process and not kind of be narrow-minded, just doing our thing and that's it. So hi, my name is Keren Kenzi. I'm a senior software engineer working at AT&T R&D Center. I volunteer at different initiatives. I like to organize meetup, help women in their professional growth, and I'm very excited to be in Build Stuff. It's my first time attending, and it's really a wonderful conference. So before we get started, let's talk about what is actually cognitive psychology. So cognitive psychology is a field in psychology that studies the mental processes underlying cognition. It includes basic processes such as perception, sensation, attention, memory, imagery, language, and reasoning and problem and decision making, problem solving, reasoning, and judgment and decision making. So no worries, I'm not going to cover the entire processes. I'm going to focus on three that I found most relevant to UX UI development. Those are the perception, attention, and judgment and decision making. Let's start with perception. We can think of ourselves kind of as a function. We receive a lot of information, a lot of stimuli from the world surrounding us. We can see things, smell things, touch things, feel things, taste things, and stuff like that. And we get all this input, and the output is our experience of the world surrounding us. Now, there are several theories that explain how we perceive the world, how we organize objects, how we see things and give them interpretation. And one of those theories is the Gestalt theory. Now, the Gestalt psychologists offer several principles to explain how we perceive objects in the world. So if we take a look and talk about the law of provenance, we can see here the Olympic symbol. Now, most of us will perceive it as 5 ring. Why is that? Because our brain, like a computer, has limited capacity. It has limited CPU. It has limited amount of resources it can dedicate in order to process information. So we want to keep things as simple as possible. So we are not seeing this. This is another name for the law of provenance. It's also the law of the good figure or the law of simplicity. So we're not perceiving it as 9 separate objects, but rather we see it as 5 rings. Moving on, so this kind of sums everything up. So we are kind of trying to keep it lazy. We want to let our brain rest. The same way we drive automatically home, right? You know the feeling when you get home and you don't even remember how you got there because you drive automatically? That's an example of our brain trying to save resources. Okay, now I'm going to ask you questions. Take a look at those buttons. Now we have this text, and it is exactly in the middle of those 2 buttons. Raise your hand if you think that the text describes the upper button. The lower button? Okay, what about now and now? So you see how different the gap makes? How it's much more easier to grasp which information belongs to which item, which button the text belongs to? So this relates to the law of the principle of proximity. Basically, it says that objects that are near each other are perceived as grouped together. So our brain has to dedicate less resources when everything is kind of next to each other. This is an example, for example, when we have an application with different sections. So we don't even need this divider. We can remove it, right? So the design is more aesthetic. We don't even need the headers because our brain will automatically know that the 3 uppers probably belong to the same category and the last 3 ones belong to the same category because they are grouped together. So this is a principle of proximity. Let's see other example of that. You see here, this is the build stuff speaker list. I took it from the speakers page, and you can see that we have a gap between each speaker. If the title and the name of the speaker were to be presented just in the middle of the speakers, it will take our brain a little bit more time to understand if the image belongs to the title, to this title, or to another title, another name. Okay. Another law is the law of common region. Whenever objects share common boundaries, common background, we see the information as clustered together. You can see here that I added and kind of created a card, so it even helps even further for our brain to grasp which information belongs to which speaker. Now, the law of the common region is stronger than the law of proximity. We said before, like if we take a look at this image, we know that the first 4 circles belong together, and those belong together, right? We just saw an example, but what happens, just see how it goes. And now, just by adding this boundary, our brain will automatically know that there is some relationship between those 2 groups, between those 4 circles and up and the lower 4 circles. What about now? When we have data displayed in a table, we have so much information and it's hard for us to kind of follow the line, right? But when we use the zebra, there's alternating color, it helps us to kind of be more efficient in following the roads, following the line of information. So this is another example. Now, another principle is the principle of similarity. So just like proximity, our brain automatically groups together objects that share similarity. It can either be similarity by size, by color, by direction, and by shape. So let's take a look at a few examples. We can apply it, of course, to website and design. So whenever we choose the same styling, the same design, whether it's font, radius, border color, etc., we know that those objects belong to the same category. For example, this is the example we showed before, but from another perspective, from the principle of similarity. We see that we keep it consistent, so we know that each speaker has the same style. Another example is the ticketing offers. You see, they share a common style. Beside the sold one, I will get to sold out, I will get to it later on. So you see it being applied to different principles. So again, the same category, all of those are items. Even if you don't read the text, if you cannot read English, you will probably automatically know that those are the same category that present different items, right? We are that smart or that lazy, just joking. So our brain automatically tries to be more better. So another example is get tickets. So we can see it being consistent. Those are the buttons from Build Stuff. So each action item, each button share the same color, the same font. So we automatically know that those are the call for action buttons on Build Stuff website. And again, filters. Usually whenever we implement filters, usually they have the same styling, right? And if we want to have an application that shows different kind of graphs, we will also have this kind of same design, same styling. We will usually have an icon displaying the different types of graph that we support, a title, etc. And the principle of similarity is also applied to, can you guess, stories on Instagram or stories on Facebook, right? And this gets me to another thing, which is the principle of continuity. So even if we don't see the next stories, our brain automatically continues the line. It follows the line of the curves, and even if they are out of our view. So we tend to connect together objects that follow visual lines and curve. And it also demonstrates another principle, which is the principle of closure. Meaning our brain, can you guess, automatically completes the circle. So even though we don't see the entire story, we know there is an image, there is a video, it's a complete thing. Okay. Now, okay. Let's talk about attention. Now, whenever you're listening to the talk, usually there is an advice to keep the slide minimal as possible. Why is that? Because when you're trying to listen to the speakers, and imagine that there was a lot of text over here, it's kind of like you try to listen to the speaker while reading the text on the slide. So you kind of guess that attention is a bit problematic, especially nowadays when we get notification on the phone and stuff like that. So attention is our ability to stay focused on certain things, certain objects, certain activity, while ignoring the rest. Now, does anybody here from the picture? Okay, so because I took it from Bill Stuff YouTube video, and this demonstrates our ability to focus our attention on certain things. Whenever we are in a cocktail party, if you stay at a reception, you will probably have conversation with other attendees. So whenever I speak to another person, let's say I'm speaking to Suzanne, I pay attention only to her while ignoring the rest of the conversation, and usually there are a lot of conversation happening all around us, right? But whenever somebody says our name, even if you are not listening to them, we hear it. Or, for example, imagine you are at a pub drinking your favorite beer, and then suddenly you hear someone says, "Bill Stuff." So what happens? It draws your attention. Why? Because there are certain words that are interesting to us, like our name, like our favorite topics, that grabs our attention. There is a lower threshold that kind of attracts our attention to it, and it is called the cocktail party effect, if you want to learn about it some more. Now, how do you grab attention? You can use bold font, you can use bold colors, you can use bigger font, because you want the most important information to stand out, to be easy to locate the most important information. And again, we are visual creature. Do you know that the visual system in the brain contains the largest amount of neurons? So if we add image that supports and convey the same message, we emphasize the most important information in a visual way. So instead of saying this kind of long sentence, join us on December 3rd till 5, 2025 at the Radisson Blu Hotel, Lithuania and Vilnius, or online for Bill Stuff 2025. This is the most inclusive and diverse tech conference in the Baltics with more than 10 tracks and over 100 speakers. So, based on what I said before, how we can convey it? Like this, and that's exactly what they did at Bill Stuff. So you see, you have the most important information stayed out. You have the icons that kind of grabs your attention to the location. You have the date, you have the font, you have the speakers, you straight away see the numbers and stuff like that. So you make it more visually interesting. You kind of emphasize the most important information using colors and stuff like that. Another example of how you can use it, is, for example, if your product, if your application demonstrates and includes graph, if you want to emphasize the data you present to the user. For example, if you want to say your pods or something else that your resources are about to run out and you need to increase something, what you can do, you need to display bold color. Usually if the threshold is really over the top, you usually use red. If it's about medium, it is yellow. Okay, you did your study, good. So we can use colors and stuff like that in order to convey this message. And we can see here, there's another example, and what you can see here, that there is an action button calling for you, and it's big, right? You can see the full agenda, and I'm not just mentioning it because it takes me to another law, which is the Fitts law. So the time to acquire targets is a function of the target, the distance to the targets and the target size. What it means to you, that if you have an important call for action, let's say, I hope I won't lose my attention to the notification. Where should I locate the button? I want to keep it in a finger reach, right? If I put a small button that is hard to reach, it will be a bit problematic. So if I have a call for action, I want to keep it reachable. I want to keep it big, right? So this is the way it looks. And can you think of a real-life example? So when we go to the bathroom or something, we have the light switch off and on in a reachable place, right? Otherwise, we will kind of be lost in the dark. So it's an hand reach in order to switch on and off the light. Okay, moving on to memory. So I know I said that I'm not going to cover memory, but I want to test your memory. Are you ready? So I'm going to show you a few stimuli, and I want you to try and remember the most of them. Ready? Yeah. I will check silence as a yes. Okay. What do you think? You have a good memory or a bad one? Okay, so how many of you remember the number 9? Okay, good. What about 18? Okay, 3? Less. 5? Okay. And build stuff? Yay! And why is that? We tend to remember, this demonstrates the way our memory works. So basically, we remember the first things that we see better. Why is that? Because we have more time to memorize it, right? And we remember the last things that we see for better because it's less, so it's fresh in our memory. And when something stood out, we remember it as well. So that's why we remember build stuff, right? So this demonstrates the von Ristorff effect, meaning that whenever homogeneous stimuli are presented, the one that differs from the rest is more highly to be remembered. See, I remember this sentence even without being shown on the screen. So we can see an implementation of this effect. So what do? We kind of tend to use the recommendation tag or the most popular tag whenever we want to grab the user attention to certain things. So we can see it here. Another place we can see it is in the build stuff sold out, right? It stands out from the other tickets because it's sold out. We can even take it even further and kind of keep it grayscale, or we can even kind of make it transparent. Now, I'm showing you an example from the Build Stuff conference, but you can probably think about ways you can apply it to your own product, to your own application, right? So, moving on to more complex mental processes. Now, as human, we have so many things to decide. We have so many processes. These are complex. We need to decide which talk to go to, which conference to go to, what to eat for lunch. It's very important what we order, right? We spend most of the day trying to figure out what to order on Walt. Yeah. So for that, we have our mental models to the rescue. So what are mental models? Mental models are internal representation of the world surrounding us. So we have those models based on our past experience, based on our knowledge, expectation, and stuff like that. So you probably saw a website that utilizes those mental models and use icon for shopping carts, right? Because in real life, we have shopping cart in the supermarket. So if we design an application that sells something, we have the shopping cart icon. If we have an option to save things, anybody used this in the past, or I'm just the only one? Okay, so I'm not the only one? Phew. This is not a 3D printed model of the save icon. I used to submit work in the university with this. Never mind, I'm feeling old. So whenever we utilize icons that align with the mental models that we have, such as the trash can, such as the edit pencil, right? What happens? We make the website, the product, more intuitive for a user to use. And mental models also relate to Jacob's law. As user, we spend most of the times in other applications. So what it means that we expect our application, our product, to work the same way as other website, other product, other things. For example, if we have a dating app and we used to swipe right and left, let's say I developed a new dating app. What do you expect to be, the behavior to be? Also, swiping left and right, right? You don't expect something else. So, love is in the air, and this is Jacob's law. So, by aligning our website to other familiar things, we make it more intuitive for the user to use. And if we want to introduce some new way to do stuff, what we need to do is basically kind of offer as a beta option, offer the user a way to kind of play around with the new design, get used to it, and offer them the option to switch back to the new design. I think YouTube did the same, so we kind of want the user to gradually adjust to the new design if we want to make some changes. Okay, let's see how it works in real life. So let's say we are new to the Build Stuff conference page. So what happens? We go to the website, and what do we expect? The icon, right, on the left top. We expect the navigation bar to be on the top or on the side, right? And we usually have some language, or this is also the pricing because we are in Europe, but we usually have a language change and stuff like that also on top. So we come to a new website, we have certain expectation of how things work. And of course, we expect the tickets button to be really bold and really attracts our attention so we can straight away purchase this ticket and attend this amazing conference. Okay, time to make some judgment and decision making. Are you ready to make some important decision? No? Okay, so the door is that way. Sorry. Joking. So, okay, for the next slide, I'm going to show you thing that it's called the word cloud. Basically, it increases the option that is mostly selected. Now, I know it's a word, but you can enter number. So I ask you for this exercise to just put in the number. Ready? Okay, so scan this QR. And don't worry, it's anonymous. So if you're on a diet, I won't know that your favorite dessert is, okay, very important decision, right? I hope that in the reception we will have one of those. Okay, so let's take a minute and let's switch. Okay, ready. Interesting if you share similar taste in dessert. Just a number. Okay. Let's see if you have similar taste. Okay. Let's see. Okay. Let's show the result. Ready? Okay, 18. Let's see, 18. Really? I'm surprised. Usually people go for the cheesecakes or the brownies or whatever. Okay, interesting choice. Thank you. Okay, moving on to the next slide. Wait. Okay, now out of those three, let me hide the result. Don't pick. Now select your favorite dessert. Now I feel bad that I didn't put the gummy. Okay. Interesting. Okay. Let's see this time. Ooh. What do you say? Is 3 bigger than the 2? Okay, so we will share the dessert, no problem. So brownies and Belgian waffle. I'm from the Belgian waffle, so 3 is a... Ah, right. Okay. Okay. Okay, so maybe 3 is the leading. Okay. So what it demonstrates is actually that when the more choices that we have, the longer it takes to decide, because we need to compare each options. So like whenever I order lunch at work, we have so many restaurants nearby, so I don't know really what to order, right? You end up scrolling everything, like my phone kind of shows me how many time I spend on each application. Walt, if you know it, I spend most of the time on Walt trying to decide what to eat. So the problem is that we can have choice overload. And whenever we get choice overload, it might cause our user to abandon the app, right? And it can also cause analysis paralysis. We're kind of, I don't know what to order, I don't know what to choose. It can cause a buyer's remorse. Let's say I ordered from a new restaurant and the food wasn't that good, and now I feel bad for ordering this new restaurant. I should have kept my usual, and cause abandonment. So what can we do to solve it? Can you think of something? Decrease the number of choices, right? We usually present 3 to 4 options. We can kind of categorize and group together options. We can highlight recommended option, and we can have a compare table. For example, there are web applications that offers you to buy phones and stuff like that. So they compare the camera quality, the, I don't know, memory size, the phone quality, and etc. So that's the way you kind of help your user and take them step by step through the process. We can see this example being applied on flight, right? Usually, airlines offers 3 options, right? You have the light or 4. The light, the classic, and the flex option. Just imagine what will happen if airlines will show you all the possible combination of baggage size. Let's say they will add like 25, 5 kilo, 8, 9, 10, option 2, kind of, I don't know, select seat, don't select seat, all those kind of combination. What will happen? By the time you make a choice, the price will probably increase and you will end up not taking this vacation and staying at home. So we don't want that. We want to kind of help our user and just show them 3 to 4 options. So what we can do, we can take the user, it's called progressive disclosure. We don't want to overwhelm our user, so we take them step by step throughout the process. So first they select the class ticket, then they select a seat, and then another step, then they choose insurance if they want to, and so on. And again. Okay, another thing I want to discuss is how choices depends on the default and how choices are presented. So a study conducted by Johnson and Goldstein back in 2003 studies why people at certain countries choose to become an organ donors, while in other countries there are less people volunteer to become organ donors, even though they claim they want to become one. So they really investigated it, and they conducted a study, and can you guess what they found out? What is the reason for the difference? Are you in or are you out? Basically, are you opt-in or are you opt-out? The default really affects the way people make choices, especially when it comes to making a hard one, because we don't really want to think about what will happen when we are no longer here. So if opt-in means I need to take an active step in order to become an organ donor, and opt-out, I need to take an active step in order to avoid becoming one. So people tend to remain with the default, especially in a hard decision, because we don't want to actually make that choice. So think about how you can apply it on your system, usually in the settings. Can you think about other examples? When you have cookies being collected, so we sometimes need to take an active step in order to avoid all the analytics being collected on us, yeah? So this is another example, and it also connects to the status quo bias, our tendency not to make a choice when we need to make a choice. For example, in the United States, in some states, the default insurance for cars offer you, in some states, it's the kind of the more expensive one. In other state is the less expensive one, and it limits your ability to sue or increase your ability to sue. So people tend to stay with the default and not make a choice, even if it's more beneficial for them to actually make a choice. So remember, not in making a choice is also a choice. And of course, as I mentioned, we can utilize this knowledge in settings and application. If we have some toggles in our system, we can think about what is the preferable way for a user to interact with the system, what the defaults that we want, what are the defaults that we want. And by applying all this knowledge, we kind of make our website and product more aesthetic. And this brings me to the aesthetic usability effect. So the more our website is more aesthetic, people will perceive it as more efficient, as more effective, as easy to use. Even if it's not really the case, right? And it's also related to another effect, which is the halo effect, which is a cognitive bias. Basically, if a product, a brand, or a person has one good attribute, we usually tend to kind of assume that they have additional good traits, even if there is no actual evidence for that. For example, in one of the research, they found that attractive people do better at job interview because the interviewer perceived them as more intelligible. Even like if there is no evidence for that, we take one good attribute and kind of, if it's good looking, it's probably really smart. Actually, that is not always the case. So we need to be aware of those biases in the way we think, in the way we kind of implement our brand, our product, etc. Ready to apply what we learn? Okay. So let's take a look at a website. Okay. I recently joined because I got a recommendation about the TV show, so I had to watch it. And what we can see here is a few principles that we talked about, right? The call for action, the button, is really big and bold, right? We can see here the principle of continuity. Even if we don't see the entire library of movies, we know that it continues, right? And even if the poster of the movie or TV show is a bit cut in the middle or not in the middle, we know that it's a full movie, right? It's a full poster and stuff like that. We can see here that we don't show the entire, like the top 20. We show what's it trending top 5. We see that the reason to join has a principle of similarity. They share the same styling, the same things. Also, the question have a similar style. And again, very clean, very simple. So we think of it as more effective, more efficient website. Okay, good. So I've written a blog post about it that summarizes most of the information that I covered in this talk. If you want to kind of take a look again or kind of have this summary, not everything is covered there, but most of the main points that I mentioned. Yeah. And I really would love to hear, like, you can leave a comment on the blog post or reach out later if you have any favorite principle or if you find the principle interesting or hear about how you applied it in your job. Yes, we want to be more proactive at work. It's always good. So feel free to share comments. And thank you so much for joining the session. This is my LinkedIn if you want to connect. And if you have any question, now it's the time.